Standardized testing, the bane of every young student's existence. The standardized test has become the normal way in which school districts in the United States prepare K-12 students for success in higher education and their future careers. What better way to test a student's aptitude in things like math, science, and writing than to have them sit down for hours meticulously bubbling in answers to questions that have been drilled in their heads all school year long. Tests like the TAKS test and the STAR test, which are given to students in Texas, take students of all different ethnic, cultural, and economic backgrounds who each have his or her own individual personality and learning styles, and make them answer specific questions in order to see if they're up to par with their knowledge proficiency. We personally think there are much better ways to prepare the minds of students than to teach them curriculum all year that will be on a single test. This type of teaching style takes away teachers' individual skills and replaces it with a hard and fast curriculum that they really can't stray from. Students aren't getting the best that their teachers can offer because their teachers have essentially been told what, how, and when to teach in order to prepare their students for the rigid standardized test. This causes dissatisfaction and anxiety from teachers, as well as stress and constraint on the developing minds of students. In this short video, we give background information on U.S. standardized testing methods, we interview a well-seasoned teacher and administrator, and we get the viewpoint of a student as well. The goal of this video is to point out the flaws in administering a standardized test as well as designing and teaching curriculum that revolves around, quote-unquote, teaching to the test.
Okay, can you say how long you've been in the education field?
I have been an assistant principal for 1 year, a classroom teacher for 7 years, and a special education instructional assistant for 3 years prior to that.
Okay, perfect. How do you think teaching has changed as the rigor and high stakes of standardized testing in Texas have increased?
In our school district, teaching to the test was forbidden, basically. Good core instruction, good instructional methodologies, good practices in the classroom, great intervention and enrichment support was all supposed to build the foundation for preparing kids for standardized testing. Unfortunately, now we've had a change in superintendents, we have had a change at the district administration level, and now we are unfortunately more focused on test scores and how to get kids to pass that test. So as much as we do promote good core instruction and good teaching strategies and methodologies, it has come down to getting the kids ready to take the test. Test taking has become a genre in our district. Test taking skills have become a genre, and so we do provide opportunities and build in time to teach kids how to take a test, which I think is very unfortunate, because if you are a good, solid teacher on a day-to-day basis and you are delivering your curriculum with fidelity and you're using good, strong instructional strategies, you're providing intervention at critical times, you're providing enrichment at critical times, then kids should be able to pass any test based on the material that you've presented to them throughout the year.
Unfortunately, everything that Mrs. Gonzaba was saying about her own district is also happening in states throughout the U.S. According to CoreStandards.org, in 2009, a state-led program was designed to establish a standard core curriculum for all of the 50 states. This curriculum was researched and formed in order to make sure students were fully prepared to move on into college after their senior year of high school. They will be well-rounded and learn mathematics, language arts, and literacy at a certain depth in order to ensure that across the board, students were proficient and ready to move on. The motto found on the organization's website is, with students, parents, and teachers all on the same page and working together towards shared goals, we can ensure that students make progress each year and graduate from high school prepared to succeed in college, career, and life. The plan was put in motion, and over the course of 6 years, the curriculum was prepared. There's even a timeline of events on the website. As of August 2015, 42 of the 50 states adopted the plan and are trying to put it in motion now. However, if we look at the education ranking for all 50 states in 2018, we see that there's still a gap in proficiency. Why is this? Well, it's just as Mrs. Gonzaba stated. This core curriculum is being forgotten because the standardized test still reigns supreme. So, what exactly does this lack of preparation and focus on teaching to the test do to students, teachers, and even parents? This was a question Mrs. Gonzaba had a few things to say about.
And do you think that sometimes the test doesn't cover everything for the whole year? That it's hard to cram it all in?
I believe that we have a lot of skills that we are expected to teach kids. So sometimes it does feel like you're teaching on the surface level rather than on a deeper level. I really do feel like we teach too much, and there is a lot that we don't get to in order to make sure that we have covered every single skill that's going to be assessed on the standardized test. And quite often we fail to see that we've really inhibited the kids from learning because we haven't taught them to think at a deeper level. We haven't taught them to use critical thinking. We haven't taught them to think about their thinking in a way that has meaning and connection for them that they can then apply to taking tests or any other type of assessment.
Have you ever experienced a child in your classroom anxious to take the test?
Unfortunately,
or cry?
Yes. Unfortunately, I think that kids start feeling the pressure of taking and passing that test. In third and fourth grades especially, it's not considered an SSI year, which stands for Student Success Initiative. So the stakes are not as high. They can still fail the test and go on to the next grade level, but in certain grades such as 5th grade and 8th grade and even in high school, the test does determine your placement into the next grade level. Now there are multiple opportunities built in, 2 tests during the school year, 1 during the summer months, that you have the opportunity to give to kids to pass to go on to the next grade level, but the anxiety is heightened for the kids because I think teachers' anxiety becomes heightened too because it's really a make or break for them. Fortunately, we're not a school district who provides salary or bonuses based on performance, so that I think is a good thing. There are other school districts, however, that do pay teachers based on their performance and the amount of students passing, and I think that that's really harmful to teachers and to kids, quite honestly, because you then start losing the value of good, solid core instruction and then start teaching just strictly how to pass the test. So, yes.
Students are learning baseline information and they're getting stressed. I wonder what the parents think about this.
School, we also have parents that feel that it is so overwhelmingly stressful for their children that they will opt out of taking the test just so that their kids don't have to go through the stress. So I feel like it's stressful for kids, for parents, and for teachers, quite honestly.
Do you have kids of your own?
Yes, and as a matter of fact, the child that is now filming this for you did not want to go to school to take her 3rd grade STAR test when tax test when it was tax, and sat on the stairs and cried all morning long because she was so scared that she was going to fail and not do well on that test that she did not even want to go to school. As far as my own kids are concerned and kids in my classroom, I tell them it doesn't matter to me how you perform on that test. It matters to me what you learn on a day-to-day basis and how you're able to show that learning and use that learning and continue with your learning is more important than a snapshot on one day in a setting that you're not used to, that is not even part of your daily routine at school. Does not give me any indication of how smart you are.
And then, how does this affect the teachers, especially the new ones who haven't ever given a test before?
We do have some new to profession teachers that have not tested previously, of course, being new to profession. We've had some teachers that move grade levels that were in non-testing grade levels before that are now in testing grade levels, and it is anxious for them. I mean, it does give them anxiety. More so, I think, because they want to do right and good by their students. They want to provide that good quality core instruction. They want to provide the intervention and the challenge that kids desperately need to be successful. However, they do understand too that for those kids and those parents that score means a lot. And it means a lot to people who are looking just at numbers and not at the picture of the whole child. So overall, yes, we do have teachers that are nervous right now. We do have teachers that are um, quickly trying to throw things together, trying to cram it all in and try to provide reviews and try to provide all kinds of study guides and things for kids to kind of get them shored up and ready to go before next week. We have our first round of testing next week. It's 4th grade writing and 5th grade STAR math and reading. And for those 5th graders, they'll get those scores back in 2 weeks. We'll know whether they passed or failed. If they failed, we'll have to provide, by state law, mandatory intervention for those kids until the second administration, which means that we are now going to have to also start neglecting good Common Core instruction. That's going to fall by the wayside. Unfortunately, it's just how that system works.
So not only do the STAR, TAKS, and other standardized tests act as stressors for students, parents, and teachers, they can actually also keep students from continuing on in their core curriculum if they don't do well on a previous test. That doesn't sound like a healthy way to promote learning and proficiency in the classroom. After we got done talking with Ms. Gonzaba about her well-informed perspective on the standardized testing methods in the U.S., we decided to turn our focus in another direction. We talked to a student who's in her final year of schooling in high school and saw 2 different standardized tests throughout her high school career, the TAKS and the STAR. We were curious to learn if these tests helped her or hurt her in her learning experience.
Can you please state your name and the grade that you're in?
Gonzaba, 12th grade.
Okay. Pilar, when was the last time you took a standardized test?
Last spring.
And which test was that?
The STAR test.
And did the test that you took determine whether or not you moved on to be a senior?
Yes.
Okay. And which tests did you take?
6th through 11th grade, I take the STAR test, but 3rd through 5th grade, I took the TAKS test.
What subjects did you take last year?
I took reading last year and math, I believe.
Okay. And do you feel like what you learn in the classroom is based particularly on what you're going to learn on the test, or because the teachers genuinely want to teach you?
I think mostly they teach us what's going to be on the test, especially like right before we take the test. A month before, they kind of just try to cram everything they can into your brain, even though we didn't really talk about it throughout the whole school year.
Do your teachers ever make you feel like if y'all pass the test, it's a direct reflection of your effort as a student, or do they make you feel like you're not good enough if you don't pass the test?
I think if you don't pass the test, they kind of see you as like a student who wasn't really paying attention to them or like doesn't really understand the topic, so it's kind of like a pressing matter to pass the test.
And what kind of things do they say to y'all in regards to the test?
Just to like be prepared, like remember all the study tools, even though they probably didn't teach us any, to try and remember all of them, like remember things from last year, like the years before.
What do you typically feel before you took those tests?
Mostly nervous and anxious.
And why?
I think because it's like such a lot of work for like a 4-hour time period. You don't get breaks in between, you don't get snack breaks, you only get like a minimal amount of bathroom breaks, so it's just kind of like all crammed into like 4 hours, so like as much as you can do in 4 hours.
Columbia University Office of Work and Life conducted a study to figure out the pros and cons of standardized testing. They came up with 7 pros and 9 cons. The pros are as follows. Standardized testing holds teachers and schools accountable. Standardized testing gives teachers guidance and helps them determine what to teach students and when to teach it. Standardized testing gives parents a good idea of how their children are doing as compared to students across the country and locally. Standardized testing allows students located in various schools, districts, and even states to be compared. Standardized testing is typically accompanied by a set of established standards or structural framework which provides teachers with guidance for what and when something needs to be taught. Standardized tests are objective in nature. And lastly, standardized tests provide accurate comparisons between subgroups. The cons were as follows. Standardized testing evaluates a student's performance on one particular day and does not take into account any external factors. Standardized testing causes many teachers to only teach the tests, as we've seen in this video. Standardized testing only evaluates the individual performance of the student instead of the overall growth of that student over the course of a year. Standardized testing can create a lot of stress on both educators and students. Many people say that though the answers are checked by computers, the people that make the tests could be biased. The success of schools is dependent on the performance of their students. There has been a misconception that students and kids with learning disabilities, such as dyslexia, perform poorly in standardized tests. Sometimes they actually perform better when they're given necessary support and motivation. Some school systems are under great pressure to raise their scores, so they have resorted to decreasing and doing away with recess. Lastly, standardized tests can place a huge amount of stress on students and teachers alike. So, after taking into account all the things said and read, it's clear that the standardized test is more harm than good when it comes to K through 12 students. Instead of pushing teachers and schools to teach their students curriculum that will be on one test at the end of the year, some other sort of preparation should be put in place in order to increase proficiency of learning. A core curriculum like the one that is hopefully going to be implemented in all 50 states in the near future is a better option for preparing students for college and beyond. This is the route that we should be taking. Thank you.